Hello, hi, I'm Kachri and I'll be your host for today. I have been a reader since a very young age, but I remember it started with children's books like Enid Blyton, Roald Dahl, Ruskin Bond, and then it promptly moved on to a hell lot of romances. So much so that most of my childhood years, especially my teenage years, were filled with romances. I was obsessed with romance. I loved watching romances. I loved reading romances, and it was a big chunk of my teenage years. But then I grew up and then I shifted to reading thrillers. I don't know how. So much that now 80% of the books that I read in a year are thrillers. But that doesn't mean that I've completely forgotten the romance genre. There are times where I need a break from thrillers and I go back to my romances from time to time. The romances that I generally read or go back to are books that are not exactly about romantic love, but more about, say, books that talk about familial love, sibling love, friendships. And I have talked about this whole trope and genre in a different video of mine where I've recommended a couple of books. So if you would like some books on that genre, definitely do check it out. I've also heard this very similar complaint from a lot of people that romances today have gone down in their value and originality, which I will agree to an extent because the romance genre, the market has become so saturated that you are bound to find similar kinds of books from different authors. The same romance, the same tropes used again and again because readers are wanting it, because readers are asking for it. So naturally, writers are writing it. But even though I feel like you can do so much with these cliches and so much with these tropes and have them be better. So I'm always on the lookout for romances that, are different, a little different from what everyone else is doing. Romances that are playing with the cliches but playing it differently. And those kind of romances really stand out to me the most. So throughout the last couple of years, I have read these romances that have really done a number on me. They are purely romances, they are cute, they are wholesome, but they are cliche and they are cringy. And they, yes, play on the tropes, but they have done it somewhat differently, somewhat. I don't know. I feel like when I say that I love a romance, I really mean it because it is not always that I find a romance that really stands out to me. So, here are a couple of romance book recommendations from a thriller lover for you, hoping you love it. I think the first book that I will recommend to anyone when they ask me about romance or my favorite romance is One Day. I get looked at so weirdly when I tell people that this is my favorite romance of all time, when I know that this is not the kind of romance that people usually go for because it's traumatic and it's heartbreaking and it's the saddest book, saddest story of all time for me. But I love it so much. I've watched the movie multiple times, I've watched the series, I've read the books multiple times, and I absolutely love it more and more each time I reread and rewatch these. I first stumbled upon One Day when I was watching randomly on the TV, and one day the movie was playing with Anne Hathaway and the actor. I don't remember, but I watched it and I was so emotional. That movie broke me. And then I found out that the movie was actually a book adaptation. So naturally, being a reader, I searched and I got the book for myself and then I read it and I was even more traumatized because the book had laid down these two characters and their part so well, so complicated, so perfectly that it just made a permanent place in my heart for itself. If you're not aware, One Day is basically the story of Emma and Dex. They meet in college and then they have this one small night where they spend together. Nothing happens. They just spend it together and they become good friends. And they decide that each year on this specific day that they first met and spend that night together, on the same day, they will meet every year, and that is how their story begins. We see their journey throughout these years where they become friends, they become adults, they come of age, they go through life, they experience adulthood, they experience heartbreak and love and whatnot. And throughout it all, the bond that these two characters have, that these two people have, just never breaks. It's somewhere maybe etched in a destiny that they were supposed to be together. It's just such a beautiful story when you think about it, about these two people that meet every year, or like even if they can't meet, they converse every year to talk about how much they have changed each year and how much their lives have changed. I feel like this book really takes on the complexity of human emotions, human love, and portrays it in a very nuanced way. Like, the love that you see between these two people is not loud. It's not something that is so obnoxiously out there, but it's so silent and it's so softly out there that you cannot help but feel in love with those characters and just root for them, even though they are toxic in their own different ways. And I feel like one day really makes you appreciate life and its small moments. So that's about one day. I love this book. I will recommend it to anyone and everyone. And it doesn't matter that it breaks your heart apart. You should experience it once in your life. I feel this story, this book. And believe it or not, my friend from Bookstagram, Alina, she gifted me this book for my birthday, and it came signed. It's a signed copy from David Nichols. It's one of my favorite books ever. I love the author. I love this book. So this is such a prized possession of mine. So if you're looking for heartbreaking romance, realistic romance, I think that one day should be your go-to. The next romance that should be on your radar is this book called The Charm Offensive. I picked this book up when I was very, very, very bored of my thrillers, and this book did wonders to me. So it basically follows the story of Charlie and Dave, where they meet in this The Bachelor like dating reality show, and they form a bond, and it's just so beautiful from there on. So Charlie needs to prove to his tech company, he needs to save his face and he needs to prove that he is a charmer. So he's put in this unlikely, very, very, very unlikely situation where he is in the middle of a dating show, a dating reality show. He's an anxious little soul. He has OCD and he has anxiety and he has panic attacks. And this poor soul is put into this reality show where he just cannot find a break. And then we meet Dave, who is an absolutely sweet person who basically becomes, a confidant for Charlie, and they both form a bond, and then the whole story carries on from there. I had never been so in love with this two characters as much as I was with Dave and Charlie. They are adorable. Their talks about life, their discussions about love and sex were so realistic. And I feel like this book really takes on the fluffy little romance and brings in so many great reps. I feel like this book would really speak to people who think that they are unworthy of love, because so many of us really do. And I feel like, people like us who question about happiness and love and the worthiness of it repeatedly on an everyday basis, even maybe not talking about it, but thinking about it, I feel like this book really brings up those questions and talks about it in a very nuanced way, especially with the ace representation. I feel like the talk about love and sexuality becomes a very important part of this book, and as well as the characters. This book, while it was romance and while it was between these two guys, I feel like it was so much more. I feel like it was so mushy, so wholesome, and so happy, and so much filled with happiness that it made me giggle and it made me happy at the end of the read. So I would definitely recommend it to you guys if you're looking for something happy, something to bring joy to your life. I think The Charm Offensive should be on your radar. The next book is a YA, but I remember when I read it, I ended up loving it so much. It's called It Sounded Better in My Head by Nina Kenwood. And if you like books like Better Than the Movies and other Lynn Painter books, I think you would really like this. It Sounded Better in My Head is basically a coming of age story about our main character, Natalie, who is basically questioning a lot in her current situation. Her parents are going through a divorce, her best friends are hooking up, and she just doesn't know what she's doing. And I feel like these are questions, these are situations that we have also been throughout our lives, especially during the teenage years, where we're constantly questioning what the hell is up with us. What are we doing? I do not like myself. What is the point of love? Am I ever going to be happy? And I feel like these questions of relatability really comes up in Natalie's world. Like, I've never felt so seen and so related to a character as I did with Natalie while reading the book. The author also takes up questions about love, happiness, and sexuality in a very nuanced way. I think like these are topics that are needed and should be discussed openly in YA books, because so many kids and so many teenagers struggle through it all the time. This book, while it is romance at the core of it, I feel like it also talks a lot about a young girl growing up with so many questions around her, seeing everyone around her fall in love, fall out of love, and questioning the meaning of love, questioning the meaning of life and what she is doing in life. Yes, this book is filled with drama. Yes, it has the typical quirkiness of a YA rom com, but at the end of it, it's also very funny, it's hilarious, it's fresh and refreshing to read about this girl who is imperfect in her own way, but doesn't really try to be perfect at the end of it all. I feel like teenage anxieties were really, really well portrayed in this book, and at the end of the day, I enjoyed reading it. The next book that I would like to recommend is called Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. I read this book years ago, so I don't necessarily remember a lot about it, but I remember being so happy after reading this. Basically, it is, as the title suggests, it's about tweets that go viral, and then people on the internet just start shipping these two characters, Pepper and Jack. They are both like part of these massive fast food chain companies, and both at the other ends, and they are in like fights with each other all the time. They're like rivals, think rivals. And one day they basically end up in this Twitter fight where they're exchanging fights with emojis and memes and whatnot, and it goes viral, and people just start shipping them out of nowhere, which actually happens in real life too. And then, well, while they are trying to, maintain this whole facade, they also realize that they're falling for each other. And there are, of course, secrets behind the scenes. They have their own secrets that come up to the surface later on in the book, and this happens and that happens. But at the core of it, Tweet Cute was so fun. It was filled with cute, like banters, cute moments that really make you, happy. And this is one of those rivals to lovers kind of books that I really, really enjoyed. So I would say that if you are a lover of that genre, that trope, you will end up loving Tweet Cute. The next book is one of my absolute favorite rivals to lovers book, and it's by Rachel Lynn Solomon. It's called Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. So I was lucky enough to receive a very early copy of this book to read because I was in Rachel's street team. At first, I was very apprehensive of what I was going to read because I was not a very big romance lover, especially haters to lovers. So that's one trope that I stay away from a lot. But then I read this Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, and I was in love. This book really stood out to me, and I will tell you why. Today, Tonight, Tomorrow basically follows the chronicles of these two students, Neil and Rowan, and the whole story basically happens in 24 hours during their graduation night. These two characters are at the neck of each other. They are competitive as hell. They are rivals, and they both won the valedictorian position in their school. So when graduation day comes up, they are both fighting. But then as the story progresses and as the day progresses, Rowan and Neil basically become closer. They get moments where they talk to each other, and they find out that they are more similar, they are more alike than they thought. And that this whole banter, this whole rivalry was not exactly rivalry at all. And I don't know why this book made me so giddy and so happy, especially because there is this one line that I still remember that Rachel wrote in the book. So our main character, Rowan, she's a romance lover, okay? And then she needs to attend this book signing of a romance author within that graduation night. As we know, and as it is very evident even in today's reality, that romance as a genre is so underlooked, there's this whole quote that goes where Rowan is telling Neil that, reading romance books is her guilty pleasure. And then I think it is Neil that goes on to say that why feel guilty about something that brings you pleasure. And that line has just it has etched itself into my brain so much because it's true. Like, why feel guilty about something that brings you pleasure? And I feel like the whole point of this book was that romance is beautiful, romance is lovely, and we get to see it through these two characters. I've also heard from a lot of people that the book also has amazing Jewish rep. I'm not a known voices reader for that, so I will not comment on that more than I am required to. I feel like overall, Today, Tonight, Tomorrow was one book that really, really, really made me fall in love with the whole rivals to lovers trope. I think no one has done it better than this book. Have this on your TBR. And the last romance that I'm going to recommend is one that I have read very recently, so it's very fresh in my mind, and it is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I have read Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I did not like it. I did not know that after that I would be wanting to read Emily Henry anymore, but I still wanted to give her another chance and see if, she does something else for me. And then came 2 months ago where I got this copy of Happy Place. And then I thought that I would read it because I was in the mood for some romance in my life. And then I read Happy Place, and then I just could not put it down because I loved it so much. I feel like I have a soft spot for second chance romances, and Happy Place just gave me that entirely. It was beautiful, it was wholesome, and it was also so raw and realistic. I loved how, like, this whole romance played out. It was not exactly romance, but it was more so about friendship, it was more so about moments and memories and places and the bond that you have with your loved ones. And after a long, long, long time, long years of not finding good romance, I feel like Happy Place really made me root for two characters, two fictional characters in a book, and I was really, really happy about that. I feel like a lot of people have already read it because Emily Henry is that author for a lot of people. But if you haven't read it, you still want some good romance, I feel like Happy Place should be your go to, especially if you like adult romances, especially if you like second chance romances. I feel like Happy Place also falls in the realm of fake dating a little because we follow the characters Harriet and Finn, where they're on the cusp of a divorce and breakup, but they haven't told their friends yet. So when they're on this vacation cottage with all their friends together, they just pretend to be still together and be the ultimate it couple of the group. And I feel like that is the point of so much tension, so much sexual tension that I was like, just get together. But at the same time, I feel like Emily Henry really, really did a great job portraying the real emotions of these characters and not just, letting them bang and get it out of their system, but also gradually building the relationship and mending the relationship from the bottom top. So I think that was a really, really good part about the book that stood out to me. So, yeah, there you go. Those were the six of my favorite books from the past few years that I've read. Six romances that I feel like it should be on your radar too, especially coming from a thriller reader where I basically have stopped finding romances unique or better or good at all. So these books, these romances really, really stood out to me and speak to me on a whole different emotional level. And I hope that if you haven't read any of these, you pick up one of these and then you end up loving it as much as I did. And if you have read some of these, let me know down in the comments which, because I would love to know. Also, let me know if any of these books stood out to you and you're adding it to your TBR. That was all. I hope you liked this video. I will see you in the next one with more book recommendations. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.